All right. Hello again, everyone. Super happy to be here. So I'll start by giving you just a quick view of who we are at EDC to then pass the mic over to my colleague Emiliano, who's going to talk to you about how to be financially prepared to grow and scale internationally. So who's EDC? We are Canada's export credit agency, and our job, our mission, our role is basically to help you go, grow, and succeed internationally. So we do that in a few different ways. Depending on where you are in your export journey, we will support you in providing you with some knowledge. We have a bunch of different tools and resources and training that are available for you as you start your journey and grow. We all know that skills, having the right skills to be able to go global is important. So I'll talk to that. We have insurance so that when you have your first export contract, you can be sure you get paid with our insurance program. And then we have some financing capabilities by working together with your commercial banker. And then obviously, given who we are, we have a bunch of connections, both in Canada and internationally, and we can help make connections for you. So in terms of the knowledge, I just mentioned having the right skills, knowing what gaps are there in front of you, make sure that you don't fall into the pitfalls, but know what to expect. Instead of recreating a training program, we decided to partner with FITT, Forum for International Trade Training. They've existed for 25 years, and their whole mission is about creating training on the topic of international trade. So we partner with them, and we have online training courses, workshops that are available to you. And out of that training curriculum, we've created some resources, free resources for you to access as well. So this is all available on EDC's website, on the FITT website. You'll have a link at the end. But most importantly, this quick workshop that has been put together for you is directly derived from the curriculum. And Emiliano, who's an EDC colleague of mine, but also a FITT certified trainer, will be able to talk to you about financing. So Emiliano, over to you.
Thank you. So thank you everybody for coming in today. I hope you guys are enjoying the show and this training. So let me talk to you about today how you're going to be financially prepared when it comes time to do your first export. Or if you're exporting, maybe you're not super financially prepared, so this will also still be a good one for you. We're going to talk about many different things, but the most important thing that you want to take out from this presentation today is knowing how to manage your cash flow. Because you can have the best product, you can have the best market, you can find the right customer, but if you don't know how to manage your finances for your company and you don't get paid, then everything you've done is for nothing, okay? So let's talk a little bit about planning. When you're planning, you have to know all your costs. When you're going overseas, travel is very expensive. Market research is quite expensive as well, so you need to understand how much that is going to cost you. For example, a market report could cost somewhere between $5,000 to $7,000. So these are costs that sometimes you can recover by applying to some of the programs that are available from the government, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the next. And also know your product adaptations. When you are applying for, taking a product overseas, maybe your product is good for this market in Canada, but may need to be modified or adapted for other markets, and that costs money as well. Knowing how to plan this cost is going to allow you to ask for the right amount of money when it comes down to figuring out your cash flow. So what are some of these costs that we talked about? Foreign exchange rates. Anybody familiar with the foreign exchange rates? Yes? Global value supply chain. So we had UPS talked about the different costs of logistics. Moving your goods costs money, but moving your goods also have consequences in other markets because you might have to pay for customs, for tariffs, clearance, and all that stuff. When you go overseas, there's also laws that you might not be aware of, right? So you might have to hire a lawyer that is going to give you that advice. The lawyers in Canada are quite costly, but if you're trying to deal with a lawyer in another market, guess what? You're going to pay a lot of money as well. So make sure that you have that in your considerations for costs for exporting. Same with an accountant. I work at the export help desk at EDC, and you should see all the questions we get about taxes. And a lot of the stuff that we cannot do or we cannot advise, we actually refer to accountants overseas. And thanks to the Trade Commissioner Service, we are able to do those connections. And most importantly, look at your competitors, because trying to access a market is going to be costly, not only trying to get a market share from your competitors, but also gaining those new customers. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So as you're going to, how many of you know exactly how much your product costs to be made? Good. Do you have profit in that cost? Yes, because we want to make money, right? One thing, I can't remember who told me this, but if you're making money, you're a business. If you're not making money but you're not losing, you're a not-for-profit. And if you're losing money constantly, that's a hobby. Maybe get out of that, okay? Make sure that you have a right pricing strategy. We all want to make money, but there's some markets that can only hold a particular amount of cost, so that you might not be able to charge as much. Competitive pricing, for example, you look at what your competitor is doing and you price accordingly. Statistic pricing, you look at selling the goods for the same price to all your customers. Think about like a bank. A student banking package will probably be the same for every customer that they have. And think about price scheming as well. Sometimes your product could be so premium that you might be able to charge as much as you can for that product and get as much as possible of the market share and that of value, so you can maximize your profit. Now, how many of you are using your own money to start up your business? Good. How many of you are using love money, where you're asking for family members, maybe friends? Not too many. You got to ask those people for money, okay? Because sometimes your startup is so new that when you go to the bank, you might not have enough history to demonstrate to the bank that your business is viable. So the first investor is yourself. Second, ask your family and friends. And then look for other funds of sources of funding, okay? For example, angels. These are people that have money and they like to invest in companies and they like to be pitched as well. Government funding, where you have programs that are specifically for startups. There's programs that our friends for the Trade Commissioner will be talking about as well. And they can give you money for going to a trade show or money to get that report for market research, for example. As an example, I wanted to show that Enterprise Toronto has a mentorship program where you can actually be matched with a partner that has already experience, and you can ask them questions. And this is the best way to learn as well. How do they got money? Maybe they give you some strategies as well. But most importantly, we always rely on our banking system, right? All of us have our bank account, so this is where you want to go first. Go with your personal bank account and talk to your account manager at the bank and see if they can put you in with somebody that is going to be doing your commercial bank. This is the number one source of funds. But in order for you to get these funds, you have to make sure that you can demonstrate to them that you are worth the risk, all right? Now, if you have invested some of your money and you have some love money, that shows that you got your business started, you have some skin in the game, and that you're going to be there for the long run, hopefully. Knowing exactly how much money you're going to be borrowing, because there's going to be times where your business is not going to have maybe sales, and there's going to be some of those times where you're maybe developing product or you're going to be going through a seasonality maybe in your business where there's going to be some money that is required to keep running the business. So some of the loans that you can get from the bank, like a personal loan or line of credit, or also if you're in the commercial banking and you already got some access to funds, they'll give you maybe like an operating line of credit. Know your risk. There's commercial, there's many risks, right? But let's talk about currency risk. Currency risk, if you're selling in a different currency, make sure that you have a contract so that you can guarantee that rate. And in the side of the commercial risk, want to make sure that if you are a supplier, sometimes your customers or the people that are buying from you are going to ask you a lot of questions. Don't feel threatened for that, because the way that they're asking these questions is so that they can do their own due diligence. They want to make sure that you are reliable, that you're a reliable supplier. So if you are going to be buying from somebody else, ask those questions as well. We have a little list here of due diligence checklist. Melanie is also going to talk about how to insure customers, and that's another way of doing due diligence with your customers. There's so many different places where you can get information about management or risk management. So talk to the Trade Commissioner Service. Also talk to us. There's also other private sector insurance companies that do something similar that we do, but we have a lot of knowledge, so we want you to talk to us first if possible. And this is the best slide, I think, because I have little icons there to simplify. Many of you sell through e-commerce, right? How many of you? Lots. So most of your payments are cash in advance. Even though you are getting paid with a credit card, you're taking that money first, and then you're shipping, correct? So no risk. Very good. Keep doing that if you can. But as your business grows, and we want you to grow, you're going to go through different methods of payment if you're dealing with bigger orders. So letters of credit and documentary collections is something that different method of payment that the bank will help you with, and are safe ways to transfer money between a buyer and a seller. As you get into a really good relationship with your buyers, you want to maybe offer terms. Maybe you don't want to offer terms, but your buyer's going to come to you and say, you know what, we've been doing business for 2 or 3 years. We want you to give us terms. We want to pay you in 60 days. Guess what? Are you going to say no? No. But are you going to take the risk? That's the real question here. So if you want to take the risk, and you don't want to say no, so that you can continue selling, then there's some mitigation risk strategies that Melanie will talk about in a minute. So what is an export credit agency? In many, many countries, they have them. There's sometimes the private sector, sometimes there are crown corporations like EDC. And our mandate basically is to make sure that we export, help companies export, help them mitigate their risk, and give them as much knowledge as possible so that you guys can go out in the world with the knowledge. It's not difficult to export, but if you don't know anything about it, it's really, really risky. So Melanie, I pass it over to you for a bit.
Right. So you just mentioned how, you can take on some risk. You can do some due diligence on the buyer to say, well, is it worth me shipping some goods today and being paid in 30 days? I've done my due diligence. I think it's a good company, but will they pay? Well, instead of crossing your fingers, you can actually purchase insurance, which would cover 90% of a loss if ever you didn't get paid by your customer. So this is by far EDC's #1 program. It's available to you as soon as you have your first export contract on which you want to have open terms. You can insure just the one buyer at a time or one contract at a time, or you can choose to insure all of your buyers who are outside of Canada. So a very cool program. And then the next one is the next very popular program is called the Export Guarantee Program. So when I mentioned before that we're working together with your commercial bank to support with credit insurance, with financing, that's the program that we use. So basically, Emiliano said, when you go to your banker, be prepared, right? Be prepared to tell your story. Be prepared that you are a good risk. also take us along into that story, right? I mean, EDC, the export guarantee program, is basically a way to for EDC to take on a portion of the risk on the line of credit, so that the bank doesn't have all the risk to themselves, right? So if you go and you ask for a 50,000 line of credit or $100,000, and they're not feeling quite comfortable, if EDC guarantees, say, half of it, then all of a sudden it feels a little better for them, and maybe they will advance that amount that you're looking for.
And that's going to help you improve your cash flow. And another way to improve your cash flow is by looking at invoicing. I remember when I was working for one of the manufacturers, the invoice system was set up to invoice every 30 days. Guess what? Our customers in Mexico needed the actual final invoice to do the customs entry. So I told my boss, look, we need to accelerate this, not only because I need it for customs purposes, but also because we're going to get the money faster. And he agreed with it, which is quite rare. And then as we had started doing these exports and invoicing more promptly, we needed to make sure that we monitor all our invoices. So many times you're so happy that you're getting these orders and everything, and many times people forget to invoice. Don't forget that. That's your money there, okay? And make sure that you're following up. As soon as the invoice is due and you did not get a notice that it was paid, call them. And don't feel shy, because you did render your services or your products, and so they need to pay for it. Now, when we are going outside, we look to see if the weather is nice or not. We take an umbrella. As we're going to the bank, we want to make sure that we're prepared. So all those costs that we talked at the beginning, like traveling, maybe getting the market research, you are going to compile them into your expense sheet so that you can bring them to the bank and show them your projections, because you have to be super ready. They want to see how much money you're going to need, because at the end of the day, they're going to give you money. And how do they know that you're going to pay? You need to project your sales, maybe. You need to project anything that is coming in. Let's say you apply for a government grant that is coming up in 3 months. Include that in as part of the income that is going to come into your business, so that you know the real picture. Many times you're going to be in the red, and that's fine if you're going to be able to go into the black. So for those red moments, make sure that you have enough money available. And this is an example of a cash flow forecast sheet that you can pick up at our booth, that I want you to do that after if you can. And think also of the cost of finding customer, because finding customers, you can have all the product that you can have the banking support, but if you don't have customers, guess what? You have no sales, you have no money. So ensuring that if you're visiting, let's say, a trade show, which is a really good way to find new customers for especially consumer good products, consider visa costs, the cost of airfare, hotels. The actual trade shows are quite costly. If you're attending only, it's not as costly as if you're presenting, so make sure that you have those considerations. And many times you might have to have somebody in market, like an agent or a foreign distributor, that's going to be selling your goods on your behalf. So they're not going to do it for free. They're going to want to have some money there. So you have to consider those costs. And if you're going to a country where maybe English is not the first language, English or French, consider translation, okay? Translating costs money as well as marketing of your doom. So I leave you guys with this part of the presentation, which you're going to get, because I'm running out of time. But here are some of the other costs that you can consider, especially in the delivery of the products. Labeling costs, shipping costs are very important. And the last slide. Make sure that you are prepared, okay? Make sure that you come to the table prepared. When you're creating an export plan that is similar to a business plan, that shows that you are doing your step-by-step and showing that you're actually prepared to go into a particular market. If you have any questions, call us, talk to the Trade Commissioner Service, and don't forget that we're here all together. We are an ecosystem of private and public sector, and we're here to help you. If you succeed, we all succeed. Thank you very much.
we went really fast on some of these things. I just want to reiterate that we have the booth outside. Please ask questions to see eligibility on some of the programs that we've discussed, and also pick up some of the cards that we have where, oh, there it is. So you have the site there where you can have access to free services and also a discount on the training if you were interested. So looking forward to chatting with all of you after the event. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Thank you again.